So, in the last video lecture, we have discussed the introductory points regarding the bryophytes. Now, in today's lecture, we are going to deeply understand what are the structural and the reproductive features possessed by these bryophytes. And for that, we are first going to take the example from the liverworts. Okay, liverworts. For that, we have example. The famous example of the bryophytes is called as the Marchantia. As you know about this genus, it contains the many species, and the Marchantia, right from our 12th examination to the graduation examination to the post-graduation examination, botany student always handle this Marchantia in their practical examinations as well as in the theory examinations. So this Marchantia is very much familiar to us. The such a type of the plant is the Marchantia, and all these Marchantia species show some remarkable characteristics that we have to study in this particular video lecture. Okay, now some of the peculiar characteristics possessed by these liverworts were also discussed in this particular video lecture, so that you are able to write regarding the liverworts in the UPSC mains examination. All right, now consider this is the syllabus. Here we are at the bryophytes. In that, we have to study the structure and reproduction from the evolutionary point of view. Plus, at last, we have to go through the ecological as well as economic importance of these bryophytes. Okay, so let us consider the Marchantia gametophyte. Okay, so as you already know, the bryophytes shows the alternation of generation, and the gametophytic generation alternates with the sporophytic generation. And in the last home assignment, you have detailed draw how the gametophytic generation alternates with the sporophytic generation. So first, let us consider what is or how is the gametophyte of the Marchantia. That is the gametophytic plant body, how it is, which type of habit it shows, which type of typical characteristics possessed by these gametophytes. Now consider the gametophyte of the Marchantia is the prostrate. Of course, this prostrate word which literally means that it is form their body horizontal to the ground. Okay, they form their body horizontal to the ground. Observe in this particular picture, this is the thallus, and you will come to know it is not the erect thallus. It forms the horizontal creeping habitat to the ground. Okay, that literally means it is prostrate, that is it is growing along the ground, not above the ground. If it grow above the ground, we will use the term erect. Okay, and if it is growing along the ground, we will use the term called prostrate. Okay, because it is growing along the ground horizontally to the ground by attaching itself to the ground, and that is why we explain the gametophyte of the Marchantia as the prostrate gametophyte. Then it is the dorsoventral. Dorsoventral literally means that its dorsal and the ventral side are both are flat. Okay, it shows the presence of dorsal side as well as the ventral side. That means you can clearly distinguish which one is the dorsal side and which one is the ventral side. So front side and the back side are clearly distinguishable, and that is why we say the thallus is dorsoventral. It literally means that you will be able to differentiate which one is the front side and which one is the back side, or which one is the dorsal side and which one is the ventral side. Okay, and that is why we clearly describe this gametophyte as a dorsoventral. Just like in the angiosperm, we describe the leaf as a dorsoventral leaf. That literally means the front side and the back side of the leaves is different, and that is why in the dicotyledons we always say the leaf is dorsoventral leaves, while in the monocotyledon, when we can't differentiate between the front side and the back side, then we do not use the term dorsoventral for such a leaf. So in that sense, we use the isobilateral leaf. Okay, so the dorsoventral literally means you can clearly distinguish whether which one is the dorsal side and which one is the ventral side. Okay, and thallus is branching dichotomously. Dichotomously literally means they form the multiple thallus within the one thallus. They shows the dichotomy, that is, observe in this particular picture. Here is the dichotomy. This thallus can separate from this parent thallus and create the new thallus. That is, the two thalluses are created here, 1 and 2. Just similar is the case for this 1, 2, 3, 4 thalluses are here. But when this dichotomy reaches the base, this whole thallus got separated from the parent plant. Okay, now it branched dichotomously, and each branch ends at the apical notch. Okay, each branch it will end at the apical notch. See, apical notch is at here. Observe in this particular picture, the apical notches were shown by these bryophytic thallus. Okay, Marchantia thallus. So apical notch, which is called as the growing point, because the growing point or the apical stems are there, meristems. So the gametophyte of the Marchantia, how it is prostrate. Then it is dorsoventral. Then it shows the branching dichotomously, dichotomous branching. Plus, it shows the apical notch, which is the growing point at the end of the branch. Okay. Now consider the next. That is the thallus has the distinct midrib. You can observe. This is the distinct midrib. The very distinct midrib is there, and it is usually marked by the dorsal surface. Of course, you can observe this clearly on the dorsal surface by a shallow groove. Sometimes the deep depression is created in the thallus. See, observe, thallus is always like this in the Marchantia, and this thallus shows the prominent midrib like this, and this midrib somewhat deep in position, and that is why it is explained as it forming the groove. Okay, thallus of the Marchantia, they form the groove, and on the ventral side by the low ridge. On the back side of it forms the low ridge. Okay, so the thallus of the Marchantia, it shows the different types of midrib, and on the dorsal surface is nearly forms the groove, a shallow groove, and on the ventral surface a low ridge is formed. Okay, so this is how the gametophyte structure of the Marchantia is there. Now consider some more point, that is along the midrib. Of course, along the midrib there are certain cup-like structures which are called as gymma cups. Now, whenever you consider the midrib, consider this. Observe this particular picture. Along the midrib, you will find the formation of gymma cups here. See, gymma cups are always born along the midrib. This is very important to understand, because in the UPSC mains examination, whenever you write about the gymma cup, you should precisely able to mention that the gymma cups are born on the midrib, along with the midrib. Okay, so along with the midrib, these gymma cups were formed, and these are gymma cups, as you know, they are helpful in the asexual way of reproduction. So gymma cups always born along the midrib. Then there are certain branches of the mature thallus that bear the upright two kinds of reproductive structure. Of course, the gametophyte, as we have discussed the gametophyte just in the last slide. This gametophyte along the midrib, it forms the gymma cup like this, and it also bears the upright two kinds of reproductive structures. So there are two kinds of reproductive structures formed by these gametophytes, which are upright from their body surfaces. They are not prostrate. Whatever the two reproductive structures are created there, they are not prostrate, but they show the upright habitat. Okay, how they are? They are erect, they are upright. So from this thallus, the two structures are coming upright like this. Okay, although Marchantia is a dioecious and do not form both the sexual organs on the same plant, but still we are drawing here. Okay, so one is called as the anthridiophore. Okay, one is called as the anthridiophore, like this, and other is called as the archegoniophore. Anthridiophore and archegoniophore, as you know, these are the male and the female reproductive structures in these particular bryophytes, that is the Marchantia. See, the anthridiophores, which bears the anthridia, which is the male sex organ, and second one is the archegoniophore, which bears the archegonia, and these are born on the different thalli. Okay, that is, the same thalli is not responsible for the production of the male gamete as well as the female gamete. That is, you will never find the anthridiophore and the archegoniophore on the same thallus, but they are always born on the different thallus in the Marchantia, because Marchantia shows the dioecious nature. Dioecious nature literally means there will be the male gametophyte and there will be the female gametophyte. The male gametophyte will possess the anthridiophore and the female gametophyte will possess the archegoniophore. Okay, so anthridiophore and archegoniophore are always born on the different thalli in the Marchantia, because these Marchantia are dioecious in nature. You can clearly observe here, this is an anthridiophore. Okay, anthridiophore, which are growing out from the male thallus. Here you can clearly observe is a archegoniophore, which is growing from the thallus, that is the female thallus. So being dioecious, the gametophyte of the Marchantia produce the two kind of reproductive structure on the two different thalli. The male thalli will produce the anthridiophore and the female thalli will produce the archegoniophore. The anthridiophore bears the anthridia, that is the male sex organ, and the archegoniophore creates the archegonia, which is the female sex organs. Okay, now consider, see, on the ventral surface, okay, on the back side of the rhizoid, okay, this is the front side of the rhizoid, this is the dorsal side of the rhizoid, and on the back side of this rhizoid, that is on the ventral surface of the rhizoids, there are the numerous rhizoids. Of course, rhizoids are used for the anchoring purpose. We have discussed these rhizoids in the last lecture. Okay, now these rhizoids are the maybe the unicellular or multicellular, but in the Marchantia they are formed the unicellular structures. Okay, well, single cellular structures were formed by these bryophytes, that is the unicellular rhizoids. They are unbranched, that is, no branching is shown by the rhizoids, and they are generally are of two types. First is the smooth walled rhizoids. Okay, two types of rhizoids were found in the Marchantia thallus, that is the Marchantia gametophyte, that is smooth walled. These are called as the smooth walled rhizoids, And then there are the tuberculate rhizoids. Okay, which type of rhizoids are there? Tuberculated types of rhizoid. Tuberculate, we call it tuberculate. Why? Because it shows some kind of projections which are coming out of these particular rhizoids. So you can, from the on the evolutionary line, you can say that the tuberculate rhizoids are now creating the primary and the secondary root structures. Like, see, it is like that. Observe in this particular picture. This is the ventral surface of the thallus, and on the ventral surface of the thallus, what we have here, the rhizoids. Now, these rhizoids can be of two types. First one is the unicellular or simple smooth walled rhizoid, and second is the it is called as the tuberculate rhizoid. Tuberculate rhizoid shows the some projections which are coming out from these rhizoids. So you can say in the higher plants like pteridophyte, gymnosperm, angiosperm, what we describe the root as a primary root, secondary root, and tertiary root. Just like this, these are the first one is the primary root. This is the primary root. Then the secondary root are coming from it, and then the tertiary roots are also coming of it. Right. So complex branching structure were found in the higher plants. So this complex branching structure of the root which is found in the higher plants found its ancestry in the bryophytes. That the bryophyte shows the tuberculate type of rhizoids as well. Tuberculate rhizoid literally means which has the projections like the tertiary roots. Okay, and that is why these tuberculate rhizoid can form the ancestry for the modern root of the pteridophyte, gymnosperm, and the angiosperm. So basically, in the Marchantia, you have to remember that their rhizoids are always unicellular, they are unbranched. Plus, they are of two types. They may be smooth walled or the tuberculate. Okay, smooth walled are they do not show any type of projection, and their walls are very smooth. And the tuberculate type of rhizoids are those rhizoids which shows the projections. Okay, like this, and which can be equivalent to the today's angiospermic roots, that is the tertiary roots. Okay, so they serve the anchoring purpose. Of course, in the bryophytes, what the rhizoids do, they do their main function is to do the anchoring. Okay, anchoring the thallus to the soil or to the substratum. As in this particular picture, you can observe this thallus is using this rock as the substratum. Okay, so to attach to these rocks, these rhizoids were particularly used. Okay, generally 1% of the absorption is also done by these rhizoids, but the majority of the time their function is to anchor these particular thalluses to the substratum or to the rocks. Okay, so the on the ventral surface, okay, not on the dorsal surface, as we have discussed, the thallus of the Marchantia on the dorsal side, what structure we find? We find midrib, we find the gymma cups, we find anthridiophore, we find archigoniophore. It is green in color. It shows heart-shaped structure, and it is dichotomously branched. It is prostrate. But on the ventral side, from the below side, just like this, from the ventral side, what they show? They show the rhizoids. Okay, and these rhizoids are of two types. That is the smooth wall rhizoids and the tuberculate rhizoids. And these tuberculate rhizoids may serve the ancestry for the modern day angiospermic tertiary roots. All right. So please be remembered, these are the important points. So morphologically, this is how the gametophyte of the Marchantia. Now let us consider some of the anatomical characters which are possessed by these Marchantia gametophyte. Okay, now see, the internally the thallus is differentiated into three distinct regions. Okay, there are always three distinct regions. You must have observed these are three distinct regions during your graduation under the microscope, because every time we have the Marchantia as a plant material to observe its TS in the under the microscope. Okay, so three distinct regions are there. First is the epidermal region, then we have the photosynthetic region, and then we have the storage region. So the anatomically the thallus of the Marchantia or the gametophyte of the Marchantia can be divided into three parts: the upper and the lower epidermal region. This is the upper epidermal region. Then we have the lower epidermal region. Then we have the photosynthetic region in which the photosynthesis is done, and then we have the storage region in which there is a storage of the important food component. Okay, important food material is stored there. So basically, while you define the Marchantia thallus anatomy, you should be able to mention anatomically it possesses the three distinct layers: the epidermal layers, the photosynthetic layer, and the storage regions. Okay, now consider the first one, that is called as the epidermal region. Of course, it will include the epidermis as the name suggests. Okay, now see, it consists of the well-defined upper and the lower epidermis. That is, these are the upper epidermis, and then we have the lower epidermis. Okay, and the upper epidermis is consist of the single layer. Okay, one single layer of cell is there like this. The upper epidermis are of single layer. Okay, of the thin wall, their cell shows the very thin wall. Okay, that is it is not much that thick. Okay, so simple thin wall structures were formed by these epidermal cells, and they are the quadrate cells containing the chloroplast. Of course, this is important. These Epidermal cells contains the chloroplast, which literally means they can photosynthesize. Okay, so epidermal region, it consists of the upper epidermis as well as the lower epidermis, right? At the upper side we have epidermis, at the lower side we have epidermis. We call them upper epidermis and lower epidermis respectively. The upper epidermis are form of a single layer of cell which is thin walled quadrate cells, and they contain the chloroplast. Okay, that literally means they can photosynthesize. And this upper layer of the cells of the epidermis, it is interrupted by the barrel shaped air pores. Okay, yes, there are air pores. These air pores are responsible for maintaining the gaseous exchange with that of the environment. Okay, whatever the oxygen, carbon dioxide, the gaseous exchange is there, this gaseous exchange takes place through these air pores. So these air pores which are interrupting these particular epidermal cells are barrel shape. Okay, what is the shape of them? Is the barrel shape structure shown by these air pores. Okay, so when we talk about the anatomical features of the Marchantia thallus, it can be divided into the epidermal region, it can be divided into photosynthetic and the storage region. The epidermal region, of course, the upper epidermis, lower epidermis. Upper epidermis, single cell epidermis, thin walled and forming the quadrate cells. Plus, they are interrupted with the barrel shaped air pores, and very important to mention there that it contains the chloroplast, that is, it is able to photosynthesize. Okay, see, the lowermost ventral surface of the thallus is covered with the lower epidermis. Okay, on the lower side, what we have the lower epidermis, that can bear the two types of rhizoids. Of course, the two types of rhizoids are coming out of this, like the simple smooth wall rhizoids and the tuberculate rhizoids are there. So the lower epidermis, you should be able to mention that the lower epidermis are possessing the two kinds of the rhizoids. Okay, so rhizoids are coming out of from the lower epidermis. So upper epidermis, right? Then we have the lower epidermis. On the lower epidermis, what we have? The rhizoids. Rhizoids are coming out of this lower epidermis. And from the upper epidermis, what they have? They shows the presence of the air pores. Okay, air pores are present on the upper side. Plus, they are single cell, thin walled, and they also possess the chloroplast. Okay, that is, they are able to photosynthesize. So, the first region is the epidermal region. In that, we have classified the region into the upper epidermis and the lower epidermis. Okay, and their peculiar characteristic you should be able to mention in the UPSC mains examination. Now, consider the photosynthetic region. Okay, that is the second region. As we have discussed, the thallus of the gametophyte contains the three distinct regions. First, we have studied the epidermal region. Then the second one is called as the photosynthetic region. And as the name suggests, it can photosynthesize, or it's the main photosynthetic part of the gametophyte thallus of the Marchantia. Okay. Now see, the upper epidermis contains the few chloroplast. Of course, below the upper epidermis, there are number of schizogeneously formed, that is formed by the fusion air chambers in the single horizontal layer, separated from the one another by the single layer of partitions containing the chloroplast. Okay, so this region, see, this particular region you can observe here, just below of this epidermal, upper epidermal layer, also this upper epidermal layer also possesses the chloroplast that they can photosynthesize. And here we have the main photosynthetic region. Okay, because all of these the cells possess the chloroplast, and due to the presence of chloroplast, they can heavily photosynthesize and create the food material for all over the thallus body. Okay, so in this main photosynthetic region, the food is got prepared through the process of photosynthesis, and this food is provided to the all over to the thallus body in order to complete their life cycle. Okay, so the photosynthetic region is a very important region in which the photosynthesis takes place, and through this photosynthesis the food material is created, and the energy from this food material is used to complete the life cycle in the bryophytes. So after the epidermal, the upper epidermal layer, what below we have the photosynthetic region, and this photosynthetic region is able or responsible for the production of food material. Okay, because it can photosynthesize, and it is formed by the fusion of cells. Okay, that is, they are schizogeneously formed. Okay, from the air chambers in the single horizontal layer. So this is a very important region in the anatomy of the thallus structure, in which there is a photosynthetic region which can photosynthesize and create the food. Okay, the chlorophyll bearing cell constitute the main photosynthetic tissue of the gametophyte of Marchantia. Okay, so Marchantia, in the Marchantia, what we are studying is the photosynthetic region, because it largely contains the chlorophyll bearing cells. Okay, large amount of chlorophyll bearing cells are here, concentrated here, and that is why it is able to produce the lots of photosynthetic product. Okay, which is helpful for completing the life cycle. Now see, the third one is the storage region. Okay, third region is called as the storage region, and this region is the third region below the photosynthetic region. Now see, the ventral tissue of the thallus lying below the air chambers form the storage region. Okay, this region is forming the storage region, and in this particular storage region, there is a storage of the food material. See, it is composed of the compactly arranged thin walled polygonal parenchymatous cells. See how you can explain the storage region. If you want to explain the storage region, first thing you have to mention that they are compactly arranged, very compact cells are there. You can clearly observe the difference between the photosynthetic region and the storage region. In the photosynthetic region, you will find the more cellular spaces, intercellular spaces are more. Okay, but when you see the storage region, you will not find more intercellular spaces, and the cells are compactly arranged, very much compactly arranged, and they are the thin walled. Okay, they show thin wall structure, and they are polygonally in shape, and majority of them are the parenchymatous cells with a few or no chloroplast. Okay, just like in the photosynthetic region we find heavily presence of the chloroplast, but in the storage regions there were nearly no chloroplast. Okay, chloroplast is not present there, and this chloroplast which is absent in the storage region makes this region a non-photosynthetic region. That is, this region is not able to produce the photosynthetic product. Then for what it is used? Okay, for what purpose it is used? As the name suggests, it is the storage region. Okay, now see what they store. See, most of the cells contains the starch grains. Okay, whatever the starch is created in the process of photosynthesis in the photosynthetic region, it is stored as a starch grain, and some isolated cells may contain the oil, large oil bodies or the mucilage. So starch grains or the large oil bodies or the mucilage is stored in these particular compact region. Okay, this is the compact region, and this compact region is containing the large oil bodies or the starch grain stored, and that is why we are famously called it as a storage region. So when we talk about the inner structure or the internal structure of the thallus of Marchantia, it can be divided into three regions. The very first is the epidermal region, in which you have to mention the upper epidermis and the lower epidermis. Then in the second, we have the photosynthetic region, and then you have to explain why it is called as the photosynthetic region, because it is creating the food and it contains the lots of chloroplast. Then third one, it is called as the storage region, and as the name suggests, why we are calling it storage region? Because it can store the starch grains or the large oil bodies or the mucilage. Okay, and it contains no chloroplast, which that literally means it is non-photosynthetic region. Okay, so these type of three regions were present inside the inside the Marchantia thallus or the gametophytic plant body of the Marchantia. So externally, how Marchantia looks, we have defined, right? Then internally, what are the structural features are there, that too we have discussed. Okay, you should be carefully remember all these points. Okay, now consider the reproductive methods in the Marchantia. Now consider Marchantia. We already know about the general introduction of the Bryophytes. We have already discussed that they can reproduce by the vegetatively and sexual way of reproduction. So both type of reproduction, that is the vegetative reproduction and the sexual reproduction, is found in these particular Bryophytes. As we have already discussed, the structures like gemma cups are responsible for the asexual reproduction, and for the sexual reproduction, these Bryophytes shows the special structure in the form of antheridia plus the archegonia. Okay, antheridia and archegonia are there, which are born on the antheridophore and the archegoniophore. So asexual way of reproduction and the sexual way of reproduction, or the vegetative way of reproduction and the sexual way of reproduction, can be easily seen in these particular Bryophytes. Okay, now before that, we have also discussed the fragmentation methods in the Bryophytes, in which the simple fragments are responsible for creating the new thallus is also present along with the gemma cups for the asexual way of reproduction. Now consider the vegetative reproduction. In that, the first we have the fragmentation. Okay, Marchantia thallus can reproduce vegetatively by creating its own fragments, which can grow into the new thalluses. See, takes place by the progressive growth of the apical region. Apical region grows progressively, and it is followed by the gradual death and decay of the older basal part of the thallus. That is, you can observe in this particular thalluses. See, this portion. Consider this thallus. This portion is the growing point, and it is continuously growing like this. Okay, forward. And after some time, this basal portion got decay and the death occurs, and so this whole new structure forms the new thallus. Same is true for this part. The growing point is growing like this, and the basal portion is got decay, or the death occurs, and this portion is converted independently into the new thallus. So in this particular picture, if you observe whole picture, you can clearly see how they are separating from the parent thallus. They are constantly separating from the parent thallus and creating the new thalluses. So how they do that? Their apical region grow continuously, and their basal region starts to degenerate. Their basal region starts to gradually decay, and the death occurs, and the forward structure is converted into the new thalli. It is happened like this. See, this is the main thallus. Okay, Now see, here we have the two growing points, here we have growing points, here we have growing points. It will grow like this on the forward lines, and the basal portion will get dead over a period of time. And now this is the whole new thallus. Same is true for this thallus as well. Some amount is grown here, some amount of the thallus, and the basal portion got died, and this thallus is got converted into the new thallus. So this is how whenever the fragments are created, these fragments has the ability to grow into the whole new plant. So simply by doing the fragmentation, these Marchantia species increase their numbers remarkably. So in the lower plants or the bryophytes or in the cryptogams, what we know, in the cryptogams they shows the remarkable fragmentation type of the reproduction, in which the apical region of the thallus is growing continuously, and after growing to the certain level, the basal portion dies and it grows into the new independent thallus. Okay, now consider when the decay of the thallus reaches the dichotomy as we have explained rightfully at the beginning, like this. Here we have the dichotomy. See, as the decaying reaches the dichotomy at this level, the whole thallus is got split into the two parts. This one is the first part and this one is the second part, because as it reaches the dichotomy, as the decay reaches the dichotomy, the separation of the thallus occurs and the young apical branches become separated. Okay, their young apical, whatever the apical branches are there, young apical branches got separated from the one another and they start growing independently. Okay, now each such a branch grow independently into the new thallus. So new thalluses were created out of this particular one thallus. So if there are the thalluses which shows the dichotomy, and after the separation from the one another they grow into the new thalluses. So this is how the fragmentation in the Marchantia occurs. Marchantia shows this remarkable ability to fragment itself and create the new members of its own kind. Now consider the second one is the adventitious branches. Okay, now see, apart from the fragmentation, we have the second method. It is called as the adventitious branches. Now what happened in the adventitious branches and how it is different from the fragmentation, let us see. Now see, in some species of the Marchantia, not shown by the all species, but it is found in the some species, the adventitious branches are formed on the either side of the ventral face of the thallus. Okay, thallus, whatever the thallus is there in the thallus, from its ventral side, okay, from its back side, the adventitious branches were created like this from the back side of it. Okay, not from the dorsal side but from the ventral side, the branches like this were created. Or it can be rarely created from the archigoniophore as well. Very important. Okay, if the archigoniophore is growing like this, from archigoniophore these vegetative branches can came out as well. Okay, so these adventitious branches can be found on the ventral surface of the thallus or it can be found on the archigoniophore. Then these branches become detached from the parent plant and they grow into the new plant. Okay, so we are talking about the vegetative reproduction in the bryophytes. Okay, so in the bryophytes, in the vegetative reproduction, we have studied the first method called as the fragmentation, and then we are going for the second method, which is called as the adventitious branches. So fragmentation, as you know, we have studied it largely, and now consider the adventitious branches. Now adventitious branches formation is found in the some species of the Marchantia. Okay, now consider this Marchantia, which shows the adventitious branches. It can be born on the two structures. First is on the ventral side of the thallus. Okay, thallus ventral side can create these adventitious branches, or these adventitious branches can be arise from the archigoniophore. Okay, archigoniophore also create these particular branches, and these branches can, when separate from the parent plant, they can create the new thallus. Okay, new thallus were created by these particular structures which are formed either on the ventral side of the thallus or from the archigoniophore. Okay, so carefully you should remember where they are creating these adventitious branches, and these adventitious branches, when they detach from the parent plant, they create the new whole thalli. Okay, now consider the formation of gymma cup. That is the third asexual way of reproduction or the vegetative way of reproduction in the Marchantia. See, a specialized method of the vegetative reproduction in the Marchantia is by the characteristic special asexual reproductive bodies known as the gymmes. Okay, so along the midrib, okay, as we have rightly explained it, it form along the midrib. Observing this particular picture, they are formed along the midrib of the thallus. So along the midrib of the thallus, these gymma cups were got created, and inside these gymma cups, what do we find? The special green structure, multicellular bodies. These are called as the gymmes. Okay, whatever you see on this picture is the gymma cups. Okay, these structures are called as the gymma cups, and they are spatially born on the along with the midrib. You can clearly observe in the every thallus you will find the gymma cups are located along the margin. Okay, along the midrib. Then the inside this gymma cup, okay, if you observe carefully, inside this gymma cup there are these small multicellular structures like this which are green in color. These are called as the gymmes, and these gymmes are responsible for the vegetative reproduction in the Marchantia. See, gymmi are produced in the large numbers. Okay, inside the gymma cups, Okay, whatever the gyma cups you are seeing on this particular picture, these gyma cups contains the large quantity of these gyma bodies. They are like this. They form the cup-like structure like this, cup-like structure. And inside they form many gyma bodies, just like this. Okay, many gyma bodies are there, and these gyma bodies are responsible for the vegetative reproduction in these particular bryophytes. Okay, now see in a small cup like receptacle which is called as the gyma cups, of course, which are born on the dorsal surface of the thallus along the midrib. This is very important. Okay, they do not grow on the ventral side of the surface. Where they found on the dorsal surface of the thallus. So you can clearly observe this is the dorsal surface of the thallus, and this dorsal surface of the thallus is quite responsible for the production of these particular gyma cups. And inside these gyma cups, what we have is the gyma bodies, and these gyma or these gymmies are responsible for the creation of the new thallus. Okay, now consider the detached gymi germinates after falling on the suitable substratum. Okay, so observe in this particular picture, it is a highlighted one. Inside you can form the gymmies. Okay, now whenever these gymmies are come out of these gyma cups and they found the suitable substratum for the growth, that is such a type of substratum on which they can grow. If they find such a type of suitable substratum, they starts to germinate. Okay, by the activity of the apical cells. Of course, these gyma cups contains the apical cells, and these apical cells starts to germinate, and the two young thalli are formed which grow in opposite direction simultaneously. Just like this, this is an gymi, and after the germination, there is a two opposite thalli were created in the two directions. Like this. Upon germination, each gymi creates the two new thalli, and these are generally two new thalli grow in an opposite direction. These are two new thalli separated when the central part of the gyma dies, just like this part. When this part dies, these are two separated. These are two thalli grow into the separate new thalli. So you can say that each gymi can give rise to the two thalli. And then these are two thalli which form the gametophyte. These gametophyte can again possess the gyma cups, and inside these gyma cups there will be the presence of gyma bodies which will again create the new thalluses. Okay, so along the midrib, okay, along the midrib, what they possess is the gyma cups. Inside gyma cups, what they have is the gyma bodies. When the gyma bodies come out of this gyma cup, they starts to germinate by their apical cells, and these apical cells form the two thalli generally in the opposite direction. And when the central portion dies, both the thalluses got separated from one another, and each thallus creates their own thalli. Okay, so this is how the third way of vegetative reproduction occurs in the Marchantia. Now consider usually the gymi from the male thallus. See, this is very important. See, understand this. We are talking about that the Marchantia are the dioecious organisms. Like, so this is the male thalli. Consider this is a male thalli, and this one is the female thalli. Okay, this one is the female thalli, and this female thalli is producing the gyma cups. Male thalli is also producing the gyma cups. Male thallus inside the gyma cups, what they have is the gyma bodies. Female thallus also have gyma bodies. Now, when the male thallus liberate these gyma bodies, majority of this male thallus gyma bodies will convert into the male thalluses. Majority, and majority of the female thallus which producing the gyma bodies, it will convert into the majority of the time into the female plants. So this is very peculiar. This is very important in the Marchantia. So male thallus is there, female thallus is there, because dioecious condition is found in these particular Marchantia species, and the male thallus is different from the female thallus. Male sex organ born on the one plant, and the female sex organ born on the other plant. And the male thallus, when it produces the gymmies, these gymmies majority of the time got converts into the male plant, and whatever the gymmies which are coming from the female thallus is majority of the time converted into the more female plants. Okay, as compared to the male plants. So 100% accuracy is not there, but majority of the gymi cups which are gymas which are coming from the male plant are converting into the male thallus, and majority of the gymmies which are coming from the female thalluses are converting into the female thalli of the Marchantia. So this is very important. You should carefully remember it. Okay. Now consider the sexual way of reproduction. Okay. As we have discussed the vegetative way of reproduction, in that category we have discussed the three: fragmentation, then the adventitious branches, and the third one is the gyma cups. So all these three you have to mention in the general vegetative reproduction of the bryophytes or in the Marchantia as well. Okay, so Marchantia vegetatively can be reproduced by using the three methods, that is the fragmentation, adventitious branches, and the gymacups. Okay, and now let us consider the sexual reproduction. Okay, now see, the sex organs are the antheridia and archegonia. Already we know it. Antheridia is the male sex organ and the archegonia is the female sex organ. Okay, are born on the special upright stalk branches. That is the special upright branches. Okay, not the prostrate branches. These are created on the special upright branches on the gametophyte. Okay, so let me draw. This is the gametophyte. Okay, this is the gametophyte, and consider this is the male gametophyte, and what I am drawing is the midrib. Now let us draw some gymacups as well. So as it is the male thallus, it will create the anthridiophore. Okay, so special branch anthridiophore were created. So this is the anthridiophore which is attached to the gametophyte. So consider this is an gametophyte, this is an anthridiophore. Okay, and this is a male gametophyte, and that is why it is creating the anthridiophore. All right, now consider the special upright stalk branches. How branches are there? They are stalk branches. This shows the presence of stalk like this. Okay, this is the stalk portion. The special stalk branches of the thallus known as the anthridiophore and archegoniophore respectively. Of course, there will be the another thallus which is the female thallus, and from this female thallus the archegoniophore also grow upright, and it also forms the stalk. Okay, so this is how the female thallus are there. Okay, so male thallus produces the anthridiophore and the female thallus produces the archegoniophore. Okay, both male and female thallus, as you know, they produce the gymacups. So anthridiophores are the male sex organ which are born on the male thallus, and the archegoniophore is the female sex organs which are born on the female thallus respectively. All right, now see, these reproductive branches are produced only under the optimum environmental conditions. See, very important. Okay, bryophyte waits till there is an optimum environmental condition. That is the right kind of condition should be there in the environment in order to reproduce sexually. So sexual way of reproduction is only favored by these Marchantia species when there are the right environmental condition. Now, which type of conditions are the right environmental condition for the sexual reproduction in the Marchantia? See, consider the factors like day length. Okay, that is how is the day length is there in the angiospermic plant. We largely study the short day plant, long day plant, but this day length is always affecting all kinds of plants. Okay, their reproductive strategies not only in the animal but also in the plants are affected by the day length. Then what amount of the humidity is in the air? Then what is the ratio between the carbohydrate and nitrogen of the medium? That is what kind of what amount of carbohydrate and amount of nitrogen ratio is there. Depending upon all these factors, these bryophytes decide whether to sexually reproduce or not, because all these environmental conditions should be there. Optimum environmental conditions should be there in order to reproduce sexually for the Marchantia. So Marchantia sexually create the antheridia and archegonia as the male sex organ and the female sex organ. The antheridia grow on the anthridiophore and the archegonia grow on the archegoniophore. For all the sexual way of reproduction, they require the optimum environmental condition like day length, humidity, and the ratio of carbohydrate and nitrogen, etc. Okay. Now consider the Marchantia is the dioecious, as we have rightly describing it right from the beginning, and the anthridiophore and the archegoniophore are born on the different thalli. That is, the two types of thalli are required. That is the male thalli and the female thalli. Okay, male thalli is separate and the female thalli is separate. Male thalli will produce the anthridiophore and the female thalli will produce the archegoniophore. They are producing on the different thalli, and that is why we rightly describe them as a dioecious organism, because they shows the male and female sex organ born on the different plants. Male gametophytes are different, female gametophytes are different, and that is why they are dioecious. Marchantia is the dioecious, and each of these branches is composed of a stalk and the terminal horizontal disc. This is very important. Every time when you draw see, this is an anthridiophore and this is an archegoniophore. Every time when you draw this archegoniophore and anthridiophore, every time they possess the stalk and a disc. A stalk and disc is the common thing among both. The stalk is the elongated area which is attaching this disc to the gametophyte. Right? This is the male gametophyte, this is the female gametophyte. Hence, this male gametophyte is producing the anthridiophore, and this female gametophyte is producing the archegoniophore. What is structurally common between anthridiophore and archegoniophore? That the anthridiophore and archegoniophore both form the stalks and the apical disc-like structure. Okay. Now consider The sexual branches are direct continuation of the prostrate thallus. Of course, whatever the prostrate thallus is there, this is the thallus, and it's a direct continuation of this thallus, upright continuation. Okay, so this thallus is prostrate, and this prostrate thallus shows the upward continuation like this, and it forms stalk, and finally it will form what they form. They form the disc. Okay, so they are in a direct continuation with the prostrate thallus, which is evident from the dorsiventral nature of the erect shoots within chambers and the rhizoids. The sex organs are the exogenous in origin. That literally means this anthridiophore and the archegoniophore are coming out of from the outer tissues, not from the inner tissue of the gametophyte. Gametophyte's outer tissue is responsible for giving rise this particular anthridiophore and the archegoniophore, and hence we describe them as the sex organs are exogenous in origin, and they are not endogenous in origin. So exogenous origin of the sex organ, that is the anthridiophore and the archegoniophore is there, and these are responsible for the production of male sex organ and the female sex organ. That is the anthridia and the archegonia. Both are producing on the different thalli, and that is why we are rightly describe them as a dioecious organism. Okay. Now consider the anthridiophore. Now, what is the structure of anthridiophore? What you are seeing in this particular picture, this is an anthridiophore which is arising from this thallus. See, this is the male thallus, and directly from this male thallus, here is the stalk, and here finally what we have is the disc. This is called as the anthridiophore. Of course, this thallus is the male thallus. Okay. Now, see, anthridiophore is consists of the 1 to 3 centimeter long stalk. Okay. What is the length of the stalk? Is the 1 to 3 centimeter long stalk is there, and it is generally 8 lobe disc. Okay. Always you find the 8 lobes in this particular disc, just like this. See, this is a 1 to 3 centimeter long stalk is there. This is the first lobe, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 8 lobe structure is this is an 8 lobe structure is there, and what we have below is a 1 to 3 centimeter long stalk which is born on the male thallus exogenously. Okay, this male thallus is there, it is present and exogenously it is originating from this thallus. What we have first 1 to 3 centimeter stalk, and then 8 lobe. Okay, particularly 8 lobe disc is there, and this 8 lobe disc plus the stalk constitute the anthridiophore. Okay, on the upper surface of the disc, on this upper surface, this portion are embedded the flask shape. Okay, what type of shape is possessed by them? Is a flask shape anthridial chamber. Okay, inside what you have, it's a this one, the N 2 3 4, all these you are finding, this is the flask shape anthridial chambers. Okay, what type of structures is there? Anthridial chambers which open up by the narrow channel. Okay, they show some narrow openings from these anthridial chambers, and these anthridial chambers alternates with the air chambers. Okay, air chambers के साथ वो alternate करते हैं. Here we have the air chambers like this. So anthridial chambers are alternating with the air chambers. So basically, while you define the anthridiophores, how you should define the anthridiophore? The anthridiophore shows the presence of the stalk and the 8 lobe structure disc is there, and it alternates with the air chamber. Okay, and it forms the it forms the opening at the upper side through which the spores will come out. Okay, now consider the anthridia. Okay, now see the anthridia arises in the acropetal order. Now what is meant by the acropetal order? Understand this acropetal order, that is the oldest towards the center. Okay, oldest anthridia are present at the center. See, this is the disc. Let me draw the disc again. See, this is the disc, this is the stalk. The older anthridia are present at the center. Okay, and the youngest towards the periphery. Youngest presents towards the periphery. This kind of arrangement is called as the acropetal arrangement. Okay, that is the oldest anthridia are present at the center, and what we have at the periphery is the presence of the younger anthridia. Okay, in the radiating rows. All right. So this is how the male sex organ is there. That is the anthridiophore, and anthridiophore is made up of the stalk-like structure plus the disc-like structure, 8-lobe disc-like structure. This shows the acropetal order of the anthridia presence, and these anthridia, when they matures, they form the very globular body, and they plus also they shows the very short stalk. See the mature anthridium. Okay, if the anthridium is got matured inside this anthridiophore, it consists of the stalk, very short stalk and the globular body. Okay, just like this small stalk and the globular body. This type of the anthridium were formed inside this anthridiophore, and the anthridial body is generally covered by the single jacket layer. Okay, single jacket layer is there, and this single jacket layer is protecting this particular antheridium, okay, which encloses the large amount of androcytes. Inside what they contains the androcytes are there. These androcytes are considered as a male sex organs, okay. These are also called as the anthrozoid mother cells, okay. What they are also called as, they are called as the anthrozoids mother cell, that is AMC. Anthrozoid mother cells are also called these androcytes also has the other name which is called as androcyte mother cells, okay. Each androcytes will give rise to the biflagellate anthrozoids. So inside this called as the androcyte, each androcyte will get converted into the biflagellated it's called anthrozoids. So this is finally the male sex organ. So understand this morphology and anatomy of this anthriophore. How anthriophore grow? It grow on the male thallus exogenously. It forms stalk, then the 8-lobe structure. This 8-lobe structure, it alternates with the air chambers, and these air chambers contains the presence, it contains the presence of the antheridial cavity. Now inside this antheridial cavity, the antheridium is present in the acropetal order, that is the mature ones at the center and the immature ones at the periphery. This is called as the acropetal order. And this antheridium shows the structure of the stalk and the globular body. Okay, stalk and the globular body is there, and this stalk and globular body is covered with a single layer of the jacketed cells. And inside, what we have is the androcytes like this. And these androcytes, upon releasing, each androcyte contains the one biflagellated anthrozoid. This anthrozoid is considered as a male sex organ. Okay, so finally male sex organs were created out of this anthridiophore. All right, now consider the second part, that is called as the archegoniophore, that is the female sex organ. Now see, each archegoniophore is it also consists of the long stalk, and the apex is stellate, which is star shape, and it disc with the 9 rays. Of course, it shows some similarity with the anthridiophore. It has stalk, and it also possesses the disc, but there is one important difference, that it shows the 9 rays. It is star shape and it shows the 9 rays. Now let's count in this particular picture whether it is a 9 rays or not. See, first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so 9 rays are there, and the female gametophyte is producing this particular archegoniophore, and this archegoniophore possesses the long stalk and the stellate disc at the apex, and it consists of the 9 rays. All right. Now consider at the very young stage of the archegoniophore forks and becomes swollen at its apex. Okay, apex at the young time it got fork at the apex and it got swollen like this, as you can observe in this particular picture. Okay. Now consider the first form archegonia. Whatever the archegonia were formed first, with their necks directed upward, matures, and the fertilization achieved at this particular stage. And as you know, how the fertilization occurs through the medium called as the water. Okay, the archegonia does not move from this place, it remains here only, but the anthrozoids, biflagellated anthrozoids, travel through the water medium and it reaches to the anthridiophore, and inside the archegonia there is a single egg, as we have discussed in the last lecture. The single ovum is there and the fertilization occurs at this stage. So generally you can say on the female gametophytic plant, what did they create? In the female gametophyte they create the archegoniophore, and on this archegoniophore the fertilization occurs. Okay, now consider the archegonium, how the archegonium structure is there. The mature archegonium is a short stalk, it also contains the very short stalk and the flask shaped structure. Okay, just like this, it contains the flask like structure like this. Okay, and it consists of the swollen basal venter. This is called as the venter, swollen venter, basal venter, and the long slender neck. This portion is called as the neck. Okay, neck and the basal portion, it's a swollen portion, and the basal portion and the neck portion is there. The venter is surrounded by the single layer wall. Of course, this venter is surrounded by the single layer wall, and inside this it encloses the egg. Okay, what it encloses? It encloses the egg, and the ventral canal cell is also there. Okay, ventral canal cell, and inside it what we have the single egg. Then the neck is composed of the 6 vertical rows of the jacket cells. This neck is made up of the 6 rows of the vertical jacketed cells, which are surrounding the axial column of the 4 or more neck canal cells. So 4 or more neck canal cells are there, which are surrounded by these particular 6 vertical rows of the jacketed cell. So when we talk about the archegonium, it is flask shape. Okay, what is the shape of it? It's a flask shape. Generally, the swollen basal portion is called as the venter, and the narrower portion, is called as the neck. Okay, and in the venter, what it includes is the single egg. Outside, what we have the single cell, ventral canal cell, and above we have the complex arrangement of the protection in the form of 6 vertical rows of the jacketed cells. Okay, so this is how the archegonium was created inside these bryophytes. Now consider the sporophyte. After the fertilization, of course, you know the zygote is formed. Okay, zygote is formed once there is a fusion of anthrozoids, okay, bioflagellated anthrozoids, and the single egg fusion is there, and after the fusion there is a resultant zygote, and this zygote develops into the sporophyte. We have discussed this in very detail in the last lecture, right? See the sporophyte, after the fertilization the egg enlarges. Okay, now see, after the fertilization this egg will got converted into the Twicean zygote. Okay, so zygote is created and the egg is enlarged in size until it fills the cavity of venter. As you know, you should remember where the fertilization occurs. Fertilization occurs at the anthridiophore, and in the anthridiophore what we have is the archegonia, and in the archegonia what we have is the venter canal cells, and in the venter cells what we have is the egg. Okay, now after the fertilization this egg will grow in size inside this venter canal cell and then secrete the cellulose wall around itself. Cellulose wall is secreted around itself by this particular egg like this, and it becomes the zygote. Now it is called as the zygote. Okay, now zygote, which is the first cell of the sporophytic generation. From this cell, the sporophytic generation starts. This is the first cell of the sporophytic generation. Okay. Now consider the cells of the venter wall divides periclinically. Okay. Now this is important. Whatever the venter cell is there, it divides periclinically. See, periclinally it divides, and when it divides periclinally, it forms 2 to 3 layers of the calyptra. Okay. Calyptra, 2 to 3 layers calyptra were created around this particular zygote. Okay, which develops the developing sporangium. So sporangium were created like this. So the zygote is created inside the venter cell, and venter cell divides periclinally to form the calyptra. Okay, calyptra, as you know, it provides the protection to the developing sporophyte. Whatever the sporophyte is developing there, it provides the protection to it. As you can observe in this particular picture, here we have the calyptra, right? See, the mature sporophyte. So when this zygote develops into the mature sporophyte, how it looks? We already discussed it. It sometimes the elongated structure is differentiated into the 3 distinct regions. There are 3 distinct regions that is called as the foot, seta, and capsule. Okay. Now generally this portion is called as the foot, and then the elongated seta is there, and then finally what we have at the apex is the capsule. So foot, seta, and capsule are the 3 sporophytic structures which are formed by the members of the Marchantia. Okay. Now consider foot. How the foot is there? See, the foot is the basal bulbulous part. Okay. How is the foot? Foot is the basal part and it's the bulbulous part. Just like this. Consider the bulbulous part like this, the foot portion is created. Okay, so foot is the basal bulbous part which anchors the sporophyte to the disc of the archegoniophore. Okay, so sporophyte, it links the sporophyte with the disc of archegoniophore. This is the function of the foot. Another function of the foot, it also absorbs the nutrition from the gametophyte, because all this is happening on the female gametophyte, and this foot, this is the mature foot, it arising from this gametophyte, and this food is directly taking nutrition from the gametophyte. As you know, gametophyte is the photosynthetic and it can create the food. This food is directly absorbed by this particular food portion, and this food portion transferring this particular food material to the rest of the sporophyte. After that, what we have is the stalk, and after the stalk, what we have is the capsule. Okay, capsule is like this. So the 3 structures are there: the foot, then we have the seta, and then we have the capsule. The foot is directly attached to the gametophyte, and hence it is responsible for absorbing all the nutrition which is providing the gametophyte to the sporophyte. Okay, that is why we have rightly described that this sporophyte is quite nutritionally dependent on these gametophytes. The gametophyte पे dependent होता है this sporophyte for their nutrition purpose. Okay, now consider the next structures, that is the seta. How the seta is there? See, this portion, this elongated portion is considered as the seta. See, it is relatively short and thick stalk. Okay, it is thick in nature and it is relatively short. Okay, thick and short, and it is connecting the foot and the capsule. Of course, foot is there, and foot and the capsule is connected by using this seta. Right now, after the spores mature, the seta elongates rapidly. Whatever the spores which are present in the capsule, as they got mature, see, consider this is the female gametophyte. Okay, this is arising the sporophyte, this is the foot, and this is the short and thick seta. But what happens as the spores got mature inside the capsule? This seta largely elongates itself like this. Now you must judge what is the ecological significance of the elongation of these particular seta. Okay. Now here we have the capsule, and the spores are getting mature inside this capsule. Now, the long seta will help to disperse this particular spores to the longer distance. Okay, longer distance travel should made possible by using this particular long seta. And this long seta acquires its length only when there is a mature spores inside this particular capsule. Okay. Now see, after the mature, after the spores mature, the seta elongates rapidly and it pushes the mature capsule out of the calyptra. Okay. Calyptra, whatever the calyptra is surrounding this particular capsule, it pushes the this particular capsule out of this calyptra like this. It is coming out of this calyptra, and now this will able to transfer all its spores outside the sporophytic plant body. So whatever the calyptra is there, whatever the capsule is there, which is located inside the calyptra, the stalk or the seta elongates continuously and it pushes the particular calyptra, sorry, particular capsule out of the calyptra, and when this capsule come out of the calyptra, it will release the spores out to the outside environment. Right. Now consider the capsule. It is the spherical to oval. Of course, you can observe in this particular picture, this is spherical to oval structure, generally yellow in color. It is a structure concerned with the production and the distribution of spore. Okay. So whatever the spores are there, these are all concentrated inside this particular capsule, and all these spores are created in the capsule and they got matured in the capsule. Okay. And plus their distribution also occurs through these particular spherical bodies. Okay. Now it has a single layered jacket cells of the sterile cells. Okay, this capsule is made up of the single layer of the jacketed cell, which are the sterile cells. They are not the fertile cells, but they are the sterile cells. Okay, so how is the capsule is there? It is spherical to oval, and this is yellow in color and it is responsible for the production and distribution of the spores. The mature sporophyte divide into three parts. First is the foot, then we have seta, and then we have the capsule. Now, foot is being directly attached to the gametophyte, absorb nutrition for the rest of the sporophyte. Seta, on the other hand, connecting the foot with that of the capsule, and seta elongates rapidly to push the capsule out of the calyptra, and the in order to disperse the spores to the longer distance. Then the capsule is oval to spherical in structure. It is yellow in color and is responsible for the production and distribution of the spores. Okay. Now consider inside the wall there are numerous spores and the elaters. Elaters are those structures which help the spores to spread in the surrounding environment. Okay. Now see, the spores and elaters are present inside the wall of the capsule. Okay. Whatever the capsule is there inside, observe this. These are the spores. Okay. These are the spores, and these spores are liberated through these elaters, through these particular capsules. Right. Now see, the spores are very minute, very small minute spores are these, and they are rounded and provided with the thick exine and inner entine. Okay, so spore outside, what they possess, thick exine layer is there, and on inside there is a second layer which is called a thin entine layer is there. Okay, so thin exine and thin entine layers are present there, and these exine and entine layer are responsible for protecting this particular, or for making this particular spore structure. Okay, so entine and exine are present in these spores, and these spores and elaters are all present inside this particular capsule. Okay, now see the elaters. What are elaters? These elaters are very long and the narrow and the spindle shaped cells. Okay, their shape is spindle, not the rounded shape. They have the spindle shaped cells. These are pointed at each end. Okay, both the end they shows the pointed structures like this. Okay, just like this, they are the elaters. They shows the pointed structures on both the sides, and the spindle shape is there. Like this, spindle shape is there, and both the sides shows the spindle shape pointed areas. Now see, with the two spiral thickenings on their cell walls. Okay, two spiral thickenings are present on their cell walls. These elaters are hygroscopic, which literally means they can absorb the atmospheric moisture. Okay, they are hydroscopic in nature and they can absorb the atmospheric moisture, and they helps to disperse the spores. Okay, whatever the spores are there, these spores are dispersed to the longer distance by using these particular elaters. Okay, so what is the main function or the basic function of these elaters? These elaters perform the basic function of dispersal of the spores to the longer distances. So generally the dispersal of the spores in the Marchantia is aided or helped by the hygroscopic elaters. These are spindle shaped cells. They are called as elaters, hygroscopic in nature, and they help in the dispersal of the spores from the capsule to the surrounding environment. Okay. So this is all about this topic. Okay, thank you very much for watching this video. Please like this video, share this video with your friends who are studying the botany, and if you haven't subscribed to the Botany channel yet, please subscribe to the Botany channel for UPSC examination. Again, thank you very much for giving your time. See you in the next video lecture. Thank you.